Kurt Cobain's death brought an abrupt end to Nirvana, plunging the three surviving members into a world of deep and complex pain. They had to cope with the loss of their friend while under intense media scrutiny, and also faced serious questions about their future in music. Dave Grohl, as many know, withdrew from the public eye for a time before recording what would become the first Foo Fighters album on his own later that year. As the demo began to attract interest from record labels, Grohl was determined not to let it be seen as the launch of a solo career. He assembled a band that became the first incarnation of Foo Fighters, including former Germs and Nirvana's touring guitarist Pat Smear, along with bassist Nat Mandel and drummer William Goldsmith from the band Sunny Day Real Estate. Rather than re-record the album with his new bandmates, Grohl had his demo mixed by Rob Schnapf and Tom Rothrock, releasing it as Foo Fighters in July 1995. The presence of Pat Smear and Foo Fighters led many fans to wonder why Krist Novoselic wasn't part of the lineup. Hey guys, I'm Dave. This is my channel, Sing Like Kurt. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and check out some of my other videos. While Grohl was still processing the end of Nirvana, he explained that he and Novoselic stayed in touch after Kurt's death. Krist and I kept in touch. We would get together and talk, make sure we were each doing okay. Eventually, very slowly, things got back to a more normal pace. Everything changed, and it's going to take a long time to get used to that. In the same interview, Grohl clarified that he seriously considered inviting Novoselic to join Foo Fighters. However, they both decided against it, because of the pressure it would have placed on them. We talked about it, and then it just didn't happen. The idea of the two remaining core members of Nirvana forming a new band so soon after Kurt's death could have been seen as an insensitive attempt to continue their success. For Krist and I, it would have felt really natural and really great. But for everyone else, it would have been weird, and it would have left me in a really bad position. Then I really would have been under the microscope. Yeah, so I always wondered why they didn't have Chris part of Foo Fighters. Since they had Pat in the band, it seemed to make sense to have Chris too. But like Dave said, that would have looked kind of weird to have all the surviving Nirvana members become part of Foo Fighters. It might have come off as like them trying to capitalize on the success of Nirvana and continue the band with Dave stepping in on vocals, kind of similar to when Jim Morrison died and the organ player continued as the singer, and they made a few more albums under the name The Doors. Of course, nobody knows about those albums because they were not very successful. So Dave and Chris also made the right call. And to think about it, Chris probably couldn't have predicted how big Foo Fighters were going to become. He probably didn't think much of it. Like, okay, yeah, you have this band that you're starting or this project that you're working on, and just passed on it and didn't think it was going to become like as big as Foo Fighters have become throughout the years. And Chris also had his own side project, Sweet 75. I think I've heard like one or two of their songs, but I had to look it up just out of curiosity. It wasn't my type of music. And of course, Sweet 75 didn't do much of anything. They weren't very successful. Nothing on the level of Foo Fighters. But Chris has joined Dave and Foo Fighters on stage throughout the years. I know they did a performance of Molly's Lips, which is just, I think that song is like a 2-chord song. It's like 2 minutes, 2 chords. And Chris came out and did that. And it's like, okay, cool. I think he's joined Dave and Foo Fighters on stage for a few songs throughout the years. And of course, there was the Sound City documentary where Dave Grohl, Chris, and Pat Smear got together and they performed with Paul McCartney, of all people. Kurt Cobain was such a big Beatles fan and he was inspired by the Beatles. I always wonder what Kurt would have thought of that turn of events where you have his band, Nirvana, and Paul McCartney essentially stepping in, filling his role in the band, at least for one song. And I know they performed it, of course, in the documentary, and I'm pretty sure they performed it again live. I think they did it on a late night show. It might have been Saturday Night Live. And then there was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance. And that's when, the whole band, Dave, Chris, and Pat, performed Nirvana songs with other established singers filling Kurt's role. That was pretty interesting. And I'm sure Kurt would have gotten a kick out of that. So it makes sense that Chris was not part of Foo Fighters. They've both been successful throughout the years. Of course, Dave Grohl has been very successful with Foo Fighters. He's also been in other bands playing drums. So Dave, again, he's one of those guys. It's hard not to like Dave. Chris, same thing. I've never really heard anything where people don't like Krist. I just think he hasn't really had another project that he's been a part of that's had at least a project musically that he's been a part of that's had much success, which is sad. But of course, he was in Nirvana, so you can't feel too sorry for the guy. He was in Nirvana. So that's an accomplishment right there. So anyways, guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, consider subscribing. Check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.